let's focus on the offense for a second, because that is a group without a lot of moving pieces, right? We know the principal actors within that offense. The main additions that they had this offseason was really just offensive line depth, right? I mean, they went out and got Ty Nsekhe as a potential swing tackle. They drafted Josh Ball in the 4th round. Other than that, just getting guys back. Blake Jarwin coming back, Dak Prescott coming back, and then you have that receiving core that really the biggest difference with them is just how much guys are moving around. Are we going to see CeeDee Lamb outside more? Just the interchangeable parts within that offense. Is there anything else within that group, within those 11, 12, 13 guys that make up the guys that are going to play on that side of the ball that we're not thinking about enough? Because I just kind of plug and play. Like, that's where mind is with that group.
It really is. And I mean, even without Hard Knocks, just the way the Dallas Cowboys are, there just really is. It's very rare that you're like, hey, this is a Cowboy that's flying under the radar. Like, it happens, don't get me wrong, but it's very rare. And so if they don't have injuries last year, like Dak doesn't get hurt, the offensive line stays healthy. I mean, outside of maybe Kansas City and one other team, Dallas's offense is right there with everyone else. And that is the expectation this year. I mean, they're to the point where they could probably even absorb an injury, not a full season, but, they could afford, if Zeke went down for a couple games, Tony Pollard can step in.
Absolutely.
If Blake Jarwin goes down, Dalton Schultz can step in. Amari can't, go to start the season. Having CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and then all those other weapons we just mentioned, they should still be good there. The key really to me is it's like there's going to be playmakers. Dak is very familiar with this offense. That was one of the big reasons that Kellen Moore stayed on this staff when McCarthy was hired, is because they wanted to grow on what they've been building since Dak was drafted in 2016. And so to me, it's all, and I know it's boring to fans to say this, especially fantasy football fans, but like to me, like, I don't even need to know about the health of the guys outside of Dak in terms of skill positions. Tell me how healthy the offensive line is going to be. And really, and that even comes down to 3 guys. Like, I really feel like if you tell me that they're going to have a healthy Tyron Smith, healthy Lyle Collins, and healthy Zach Martin, which they didn't have last year. Lyle Collins missed the whole season. Tyron Smith only played 2 games. Zach Martin missed 6. Like, if you just tell me those 3 guys are back and ready to go, like, it almost doesn't even matter that much what the other 2 offensive linemen are. Like, this offense is going to click. Like, they'll have bumps in the road and things like that. They're not going to be the 2014 or the 2016 offensive line, but they'll be one of the best in the league, and that'll be good enough to give Dak time to get the ball out and get all these different weapons involved. And so, yeah, there's really not anybody flying under the radar, because even they're 2 deep are pretty much guys at those skill positions that people know, because a lot of them they had to lean on last year. But, like you mentioned, it's the moving those receivers around. Because we were in a pandemic last year, it was like, hey, CD, you're not going to get the normal offseason. Play in the slot. Take care of that. Now, the training wheels are off. CD, go out there and have a monster year.
Obviously, some of that is because Amari Cooper isn't practicing right now. So those 2 guys have been able to move around freely because there's not one spot taken up by Amari Cooper. But even the practice that I was there, he made 3 plays in 20 minutes. I mean, his CeeDee Lamb and the way he goes and gets the ball, he's going to be the type of guy in training camp that sticks out. So you can't notice who's playing well and who's playing poorly all the time. He's the type of guy you notice. You cannot go there and watch practice and not pay attention to him because of just those splash plays that he makes. Is there anyone else on that side of the ball that stood out to you in particular over those first couple weeks?
Not really. Nobody's on the level, obviously, of CeeDee Lamb. I mean, the CeeDee Lamb thing, it even goes bigger because, okay, yeah, Amari Cooper's not out there, but he's also, with Dak not out there, he's making a lot of these plays with Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert. And I can just tell you this, Garrett Gilbert and Ben DiNucci aren't having that same rapport with any other receivers. It's just one of those things where it's like, you know what, you kind of just put it in an area, this guy's going to go get it. So, yeah, nobody on that level. I would say Dalton Schultz has continued to kind of progress of where we thought, he took leaps and bounds last year when Blake Jarwin went down to where you're like, whoa, Dalton Schultz can be their number 1 tight end, and there's not a drop-off there. So I thought there was a lot of good things out of him. Their number 3 tight end, Sean McCune, who was an undrafted guy last year out of Michigan, who really was just a special teams guy last year. He flashed a couple times at camp where you're like, they went and signed Jeremy Sprinkle as a veteran blocking tight end, but man, if they only keep 3, they're going to have a hard time not keeping McCune on there. So he'd be another one. And then, what the other thing is, like, there's been some receivers like Malik Turner who have had like some really nice practices, but you're just kind of like, where would you even fit in? Because like the top 5 are already pretty much set in stone, because after those top 3 who are going to get all the touches as long as they're healthy, after that's Noah Brown, a guy that they trust a lot, who had some good days at camp, and he's just a veteran that they trust on special teams and in this offense. And Cedric Wilson is the same exact way. So there, all of a sudden, you got your 5 deep set at receiver. So even when Malik Turner flashes, and he did a little bit in the preseason game too, you're just kind of like, yeah, but is that going to get you, like, that's not going to get you on the field if these other guys are healthy. So no, it's the guys that we know. Those are the guys that have really the ones that kind of caught your eye in terms of what you think that they can do on Sunday.
One of the other things, the last thing about the offense I want to say that jumped out, Kellen Moore, I believe earlier this week, said that because they had a full offseason with this staff, you're not doing as much install and figuring out what your offense is going to look like because you have a baseline that's already established. So they got to watch some other stuff that other teams were doing. And apparently they watched a lot of the play action game that the Titans had and teams like that within that tree, which is exciting to me because I think we talked about this on last week's show with Nate. I think the only concern about this offense outside of health is how static it could look at times. And if it's going to be more dynamic and they're going to see some of the play action elements that we think Dak looks really good running, that's exciting to me. If this thing can look like the 2.0 version of the offense that we've seen for the last couple years with this group, then I think we could be cooking with gas.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a good point that you make because that was, with the Jason Garrett era, that was a lot of the complaints with like the receivers. They were doing a lot of the same stuff. There wasn't a lot of variety.
The offense of 10 million stop routes to the point that Amari Cooper was changing them in the huddle.
Right. And even last year, Michael Gallup talked a little bit a week ago about how, he ran the same 3 or 4 routes even last year. And now that they're using him a little bit in the slot too to kind of, progress with what he's doing, they're putting more on his plate so that they can move all 3 of those receivers around at any time, and there isn't a significant drop off. And defenses have to kind of, they're gonna have to be on their heels a little bit because they're not going to know where all these guys are at. Because I know just from everything I've watched with this team, there's no doubt that Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb can play inside and out and not have any problem with it. Gallup playing in the slot, that's something that remains to be seen because he's been mainly just an outside guy, big body receiver. So that's the thing about last year is just like, you saw some games where you were like, okay, there's a lot of variety here and stuff, and then they would dial it back some games, and you were just kind of like, is this going to be, are there going to be more jet sweeps? Are they going to do a lot more things where they're moving guys around, particularly pre-snap and stuff like that? Or depending on teams, are they going to get that they're playing? Are they going to get more conservative? And obviously the fans hate that, and if it's not leading to wins, nobody should like it. So that remains to be seen. I don't think that Kellen Moore has shown his full hand in camp. I think he's been pretty conservative, and I think that they'll be that way throughout these preseason games too. There's stuff that he's going to be saving for the season. So it just comes down to this for me. Like, even if you aren't an expert on the X's and O's of offensive football, if you can just give somebody all the weapons that they have, you should be able to draw up enough variety, regardless of what your system is, to execute on Sundays to be one of the top offenses in the NFL. And if you're not, there's some serious problems there on whatever you're doing, because there really aren't any excuses anymore. You have a veteran offensive line, a veteran quarterback. You have veterans. Now, CeeDee Lamb's the young guy, but you have veteran receivers around him. You have 2 veteran running backs. You have veteran tight ends. Like, now you have a play caller. Like, obviously there's going to be growing pains early on for Kellen Moore. Like, all that stuff's got to be out the window. Like, it's go time now.
They've
like,
got to be great from the start.
Absolutely.